So you think Hollywood today is pretty wild? Go back to the 40s, 50s, and even the 60s, and you'd be hard-pressed to find a world that's any less scandalous. The women who dominated that era were usually considered to be as provocative behind the scenes as they were beautiful in front of the camera. Today, we find out about the untamed love lives of old Hollywood's most infamous actresses. First up is Diana Dors, who is considered to be the British Marilyn Monroe. Before becoming a star, she was Diana Mary Fluck, and she began her career in the 1950s. But she was more famous for her sexual misconduct than for her acting. Diana's childhood was surrounded by scandals. Her mother was not sure which of two men, her husband or her lover, was Diana's father. Diana is noted to have had several love affairs and a crazy marriage to actor Dennis Hamilton. Her parties were scandalous and well known, and the ladies and gentlemen were either showered with praises or criticized sexually, including the Archbishop of Canterbury, who referred to her as a wayward hussy. It's undeniable that the fame and glamour that Diana Dors brought on the screen and off the screen was tremendous. Her Hollywood break came in the early 1950s when the famous American film producer Albert R. Broccoli, the man behind the James Bond films, spotted her. He noticed her ability to seduce the American people and relocated her to Hollywood. The more famous she got, the more the concept of a lavish lifestyle fascinated her. She earned quite a reputation in Europe as a woman of easy virtue, which in layman's terms means prostitute. Her love life meant too many lovers, and she was more eager to ensure that they never ran out of her trap. Then there was Elizabeth Taylor, whose love life was as colorful as her acting career, one could say. Well known for Cleopatra and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, it's equally important to note that in Elizabeth's affairs, information was always highlighted and made public. Her affairs, especially with Eddie Fisher, a man who was married to her best friend Debbie Reynolds, was one of the biggest scandals in Hollywood. But it was her dramatic affair with Richard Burton that sparked the interest of people all across the world. Their fiery but turbulent love affair was called Le Scandale, which even masked and somewhat silenced other important events of that period and drew criticism from the Vatican. Elizabeth Taylor was not only a movie actress, but also a symbol of the 50s, 60s sex appeal and scandal. Her scandalous reputation for stealing people's husbands and getting involved in affairs was not deeply hidden. Taylor's playful expositions included some well-known personalities and marriages to famous men in the industry. She had had a mind-blowing 7 marriages and numerous affairs, including the one with her best friend's husband that we mentioned. In the case of Richard Burton, well, they married twice and divorced twice in a very Hollywood-like fashion. Jayne Mansfield, a beautiful blonde actress famous for her humor and rather provocative appeal, was another celebrity whose private life was a far cry from the average. Known as the world's smartest dumb blonde, Jayne led an off-screen life of one-man romance. People say she had numerous lovers and affairs, including rumored ones with John F. Kennedy. She was notorious for her rather vulgar personality and even more vulgar dressing sense. She was once photographed with Sophia Loren, who looked quite embarrassed to be associated with her. Jayne Mansfield was a great and loving promoter of herself and enjoyed life to the fullest. Her inappropriate dresses and gowns ensured she was always in the news, but her actual life off the camera was even more entertaining to the tabloids. She was quite liberal in her approach towards life and love, and this was in complete contrast to the traditional way of the society of that age. This is why she was loved and hated at the same time. Tula Bankhead was perhaps the most unladylike of the list. As the daughter of a governor, Tula was a complete rebel and a woman of many controversies due to her numerous affairs and sharp humor. She was famous for her sensual singing and scandalous behavior, a Hollywood sex kitten from the 50s, who freely admitted that she had numerous affairs with both men and women. She was a very strong woman who dared to disobey the conventions of her age and didn't spare sharp words to anyone. Famous for her rather thick voice, she was a real character on and off the movie camera. She stated that she had slept with hundreds of people and was bisexual. Bankhead was living in opposition to everything that had been established about the proper way to live, and she wore it proudly. She was loved by her peers due to her intelligence and braveness, which her immoral behavior only complemented. Though Bankhead was more than her romantic affairs, she was one of the first women in Hollywood who proved that women could be brave and unashamed. Next, we have Clara Bow, the original It Girl, who was a silent film superstar whose lively screen presence mirrored her adventurous personal life. She was also a daring girl with various affairs with different celebrities of the stage. Her personal life was also far from perfect. She had problems with her secretary, who she fired, and even rumors that she was dating some players on the USC football team. Clara Bow became one of the most popular stars of the 1920s. The news about her was always associated with her joyful disposition and outer beauty, both in films and in real life. In Bow's personal life, she had many scandals, and it reached a point where her secretary sued her for embezzlement, sexual harassment, and multiple affairs. However, these scandals didn't tarnish the image of Bow in Hollywood, and people considered her a cheerful and jolly lady. Despite these scandals, Bow remained a beloved figure in Hollywood, even though she herself was a lover of Hollywood's handsome pin-up favorite Gary Cooper while she was engaged to Gilbert Ronald. Vivien Leigh was a talented actress with a very successful career, and she's still famously known as the Scarlett O'Hara of the movie Gone with the Wind. Her stormy but much publicized marriage to Sir Laurence Olivier put her in the center of the limelight, and her fight with mental illness made things even worse. However, there are rumors of many affairs, and yet Vivien remained loyal to her acting and became one of Hollywood's most multifaceted actresses. Any list would not be complete without the inclusion of the ultimate Hollywood blonde bombshell, Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn's personal life was always a topic of interest, right from her marriage to Jim Doherty, Joe DiMaggio, and Arthur Miller. The continuing speculations of an affair with President John F. Kennedy only fueled her popularity. But what the viewers didn't know is that Marilyn Monroe was in turmoil with serious mental problems, which makes her life as fascinating as it is tragic. Nevertheless, Monroe remains one of the most iconic Hollywood actresses and women who attracts people's attentions to this day. Lastly, we mentioned Joan Crawford. This woman transformed from rags to riches through strategic relationships in the Hollywood industry, rising from Lucille Lesser. Many of the friendships Joan had with co-stars and directors advanced her career. Her unapologetic use of allure, depicted vividly in the series Feud, Bette and Joan, depicted a woman who was as dominant as any male actor of her generation. Joan was a fine example of how some women would go to any length to climb the ladder of success in Hollywood through intentional relationships. Popular for such movies as Mildred Pierce, Crawford was famous for her life off-camera as well as on. Joan Crawford was a dangerous woman in the business world due to her ability to use her beauty and willingness to do anything for her success. We appreciate you watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe for more great content, and we'll see you in the next one.